here with us. Christine, okay, if you weren't paying attention on Friday afternoon, you were off work or on a trip.
Dude, shut the fuck up. I'm going to talk about the Eden stuff as well. Oh my God, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Nothing triggers me more than people being like, no, you need to get to this story immediately. Do you want me to cover immediately a story of yet another trans person very publicly killing themselves? Is that what you want? You want it right now? You want it right now in this very moment? Shut the fuck up. I'm going to get to it. It's Monday. There's like a million news stories I have to cover. Jesus Christ, dude.
Break down exactly what happened here with SVB.
Yeah, the anatomy of a collapse of a big bank and the anatomy of a rescue from the federal government. Let's look at how we got here. First of all, what is SVB? It is the epicenter of tech startups, venture capital, Silicon Valley Bank. It is the 16th largest bank, or it was, in the United States. And this is really the oxygen for technology. The technology sector really goes through SVB. So a very important bank here. By the end of 2022, it had $175 billion in total deposits. And here is the anatomy of the bank run, right? This is how much money it had at the end of the year. Just on Thursday, there were $42 billion in withdrawals from depositors, right? So something happened here where people wanted to take their money out.
Yeah, something happened here is basically Peter Thiel and others openly stating that this bank no longer had enough, this bank no longer had leverage. And once a couple people pull out and they can't actually pay, then a lot of other people are going to run and try to get their money out. Okay? I don't know what Peter Thiel's own personal interest was. Okay, I don't know why he did that. I don't know why he engineered this bank run. Like, it's very odd. Like, I don't know what he gets out of this. I don't know what he gains out of this, but like, he definitely did play a role in this. But put him in jail? Yeah, okay. That's laughable. If you think that someone like Peter Thiel is going to go to jail, you're delusional. He runs this entire system. Like, he is a billionaire. This system is entirely designed for billionaires. The only time a billionaire would ever go to fucking jail, I guess, is if they like somehow fucked over other billionaires that are wealthier than he is in like a very significant way. Like, I can't even, it's like unimaginable, low key. Like, it's unimaginable to think about like how a multi-billionaire would actually ever go to fucking jail without like losing all of their money. You know what I mean? Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein, but like Jeffrey Epstein's billions were like handed to him, I guess, kind of. Like Sam Bankman-Fried, exactly. That's like great example. That's a great example. The only time a billionaire gets punishment is if he fucked over other billionaires. That's my point. Bernie Madoff, Sam Bankman-Fried, these are guys who fucked over other billionaires. Jeffrey Epstein basically ran out of use. You know what I mean? I think he did his like he did his like CIA blackmail operation. And then the government had no use for him, so they disposed of him. Elizabeth Holmes fucked over other shareholders, fucked over other billionaires. Like, these are all great examples of people who were billionaires who fucked over other billionaires. You can't do that. Sam bank run fraud is what you used to call him. Exactly.
Out, and this bank unraveled here. So what happened? Why did they get there? Well, this is a company that for years took deposits in the good times when interest rates were very low, and it grew and grew and grew. And those deposits grew, and it put that money into long-dated treasuries, into treasuries, safe, super safe treasuries, right? So this is how much they had. At the end of 2022, $128 billion worth of treasury. Look, that is amazing how much it gained. But then as things started to go south, when interest rates were rising, those were less valuable, and the company actually was selling those treasuries at a loss. When that word got out, people got nervous. The stock in the bank started to decline. depositors started to withdraw their money. They were also withdrawing their money because technology, that sector, was in a downturn, right? And so instead of putting money into the bank, depositors were taking money out of the bank, and the bank could not sustain it. Come to the rescue, the United States government. The FDIC is going to insure up to $250,000 in normal times, and now you're going to have this facility so that above that level, everyone will be made whole. Not the bondholders and not the stockholders of the bank, we should be point out, but the people who have their deposits in that bank. Also, Signature Bank.
Because remember, like, people that fucking put their money in that bank, they don't have a, like, they're not going, oh, please, like, invest the cash that you have. Please invest the cash that I gave you into some other shit. Like, they're not saying that. They might be capitalists themselves, but, like, remember, we all need banks. Okay? We all need fucking banks. We need banks, no matter what happens. You know what I mean? In the wild, wild west, we still had banks. Okay? So the idea that, like, you could do without a bank is silly. And I say this as a motherfucker who doesn't even have a credit card. Okay? Do you understand? And when you have a bank, yeah, you need to you need to have that insured by the federal government. My parents are saying this and the other banks are going to trigger the next recession. Yeah. That huge tweet you skipped was basically a tech company owner talking about how they heard about this in a huge group chat and participated in the bank run and bought stock while the bank run was happening. Yeah, I mean, the entire process is fraudulent. Is it common practice for depositors to exceed the $250K FDIC limit? I think it is, but maybe I'm wrong. Like, I've thought it was, you know what I mean? Pretty sure it is. And you want to know what the other hilarious part about it is? Yes, most rich people bank with one institution usually because they get benefits from that, right? When you have a lot of money and you put it into one bank, especially if it's like a smaller bank too, that bank uses your money, so they give you benefits. They offer you loans, for example, or mortgages with a very low interest rate, sometimes as low as like literally 0%. Now, I don't know how people are doing that, okay, but you get a personal banker, you get a lot of amenities. Now, if you're banking in an institution that is massive, the amount of number is like, it's always going to be above 250K, first and foremost. But the amount of number goes up for you to be like a high value client and have access to like immediate 24/7 wiring, shit like that, all these like idiotic amenities. You need like around, I think, $10 million for Bank of America. If you have like a couple mil, they still won't fucking do that either. Like they won't. They literally will be like, oh, you're above 250K. It doesn't matter. We're using your money, and you get no amenities, right? But once you get to like, I think the 10 million status, that's when you get like, that's when you get special privileges. Okay. But if you're at a regional bank, you put $1 million into one bank, you bank with one place, and you put a million into that bank, then that's it. Chase private client is way less than 1 million. Really? Bank of America's first level just to be a pro member is a 250K deposit. Yes, but that's not what we're talking about. How are you so familiar with all of this? I am, one, a rich person, and two, on top of that, I read, and also, this is what I do for my job. I don't know if you know this, but I'm, this is what I do as a job. So there is that. Unfortunately, a big chunk of my job revolves around trying to understand banking, trying to understand, the markets, trying to understand finance. I have to have like some level of financial literacy, despite the fact that I absolutely fucking hate it. I feel like the stock guy has a better grasp on this than you, says Fidel Castro. I don't understand how motherfuckers name themselves after revolutionary leaders and then in the chat turn around and say, BTC, we need BTC. We need BTC Pog. Tell the viewers that they need to buy assets in the upcoming recession. I don't even think the stock guy is like a fucking crypto nerd like you are. Fiduciary Castro, Fidel Cashflow. Yeah, there's even better names that you could have used. SVB gave you a ton of amenities if you use them. They give you a huge line of credit, offered founders really cheap mortgages, and gave you access to a ton of banking tools. My company needed direct ACH access, and Wells Fargo told us to fuck off, but SVB was like, bank with us and we will do whatever you want. Yeah. Fucking guy bought one stock and thinks he's a day trader. Yeah, no, he's Jordan Belfort, dude. Anyway, have fun with the Ponzi schemes. That's cool because like one of the funniest parts about the story is like when crypto lovers turn around and go, see, you know, regular traditional financial tools also collapse. And I'm like, yeah, you misunderstood the point. Yeah, I say that, not you. You're a crypto guy. I'm supposed to say, look, crypto's fraudulent, but so is the fucking traditional financial markets. Like, you look at the system and you go, oh, well, that's why we need to go to an even more deregulated place. It blows my fucking mind. That's me, man. I'm saying that to you, to warn you, to help you get a better understanding of what's going on in the fucking world, not the opposite. I mean, this story is wonderful in so many ways because it's just like tech bro culture, Silicon Valley, rich people wanting to be fucking coddled, and then the big government stepping in and doing the right thing in this circumstance. It's just so good. It's just so great. It's awesome. It's such an important story.
This is the other shoe to drop this weekend. This is a bank that specializes in services for law firms. It also got into big trouble. The government will also back the depositors there. So a really important weekend of developments. You guys, this could have been a very different morning if we didn't have the Treasury and the Fed working all weekend to try to make sure that folks were made whole. And I'll say this is because interest rates rose so dramatically, something was going to break in the economy, right? And this is what broke, guys.
Yeah, and that comes as the Fed chair is only warning that interest rates are going to continue to rise. Christine Romans, we'll wait to see what the markets say when they open. Thank you.
With us now, CNN business correspondent Rahel Solomon and Wall Street Journal senior special writer Justin Baer. Good morning. Just by the way,
I'm trying to find my old video from like around 2018 talking about the Dodd-Frank repeal, like the deregulation that came from the Trump era, because I specifically talked about a potential liquidity crisis within banks that was literally foreseen. It was foreseen. Everyone knew that it was going to happen. Like, literally everyone knew it was going to happen, and then it happened. I have so many videos from back then where I was talking about this shit, getting fucking mad, and how because if I remember it correctly, they did it at such an interesting moment where, like, everyone was hyper-focusing, the media was hyper-focusing on something entirely different. They did it. They did it at a time when, like, I think there was some other shit that Donald Trump was saying, and everyone fucking... everyone was like hyper focusing on that, and then this came in like behind closed doors. I remember what I was talking about, where it was like they did this in the same room, basically, like one door down inside of Congress. What the fuck was it? No, it was. This is way before COVID. No.
But we've kept.
No, here. I mean, here. Anyway. It was the canceling of the Kim Jong-un summit? No, I don't think it was that. Was it? Anyway, I can't find it right now. I'm like looking for it on the other on my other page to see if there's like any videos of it, because I don't know if it's like the planned summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. I don't know if it was like, I think you're talking about the signing day, not the day where they like actually. No, it wasn't COVID, chat. This was like way before. Stop. Your brain is clouded from COVID. Anyway, I don't remember. It might have been the PP tapes, possibly. I don't know. This is irrelevant. This is like one of the. It's like just silly and stupid. It was in 2018. This part is like not that important in the grand scheme of things, but we'll talk about who foresaw this coming, who originally said that this was an issue. Why this meltdown in bank stocks? A couple of interesting theories and charts doing the rounds, so let's take a look. The U.S. regional bank ETF is blowing up today. Oh my God. Okay. With one of the scary charts showing the large extent of unrealized losses in bonds sitting in books classified as held to maturity at U.S. banks at the end of 2022. What does this mean? Banks enjoy a very favorable accounting regime. Let's see how this works. Post-GFC, commercial banks were asked to keep a liquidity coverage ratio above 100%. This means, this is important, this is where the good shit starts. Okay? This means they always must have enough high-quality liquid assets to meet deposit outflows in a stress scenario. What that means is you can convert to cash, liquidity, right? You need fucking straight stacks, moolah, guapo, dollars, okay? Where you can immediately, in a situation where people go, hey, I want my money back, actually, please. I'm going to take my money and I'm going to take it somewhere else. The bank can go, oh, don't worry. I have it right here. Here you go, sir. Here's your dinero. Okay? That's how that shit's supposed to work. But they dumped a shitload of their funds to long-term held-to-maturity bonds, right? But how were they able to do this? Because I thought in the immediate aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, where the taxpayers were forced to fucking bail out the banks and not necessarily the people who actually were sold predatory loans and got fucked over, killed themselves, that sort of thing. We gave golden parachutes to the bankers, but then we said, hey, we're doing this, but you better not do this again. We're going to give you some rules, right? Well, it turns out Donald Trump allowed some of those rules to be rolled back in 2018. There was a lot of people who criticized this. They said, hey, don't do this. But they were like, well, what about the mom and pop banks? They're not competitive enough. You know what I mean? They're not some of the top banks. Please. Let these mom and pop shops also play around with people's money. They need a competitive edge. Now, why did that happen? Well, it happened because big banks will always benefit from that deregulation that small banks are benefiting from. Okay? This is a very good take. Exactly. One of the largest banks in the United States just collapsed because of the same 2008 risky gambling shit. And without even blinking, well, it wasn't even risky gambling. The risky gambling element of it was how much of the money that they held onto that they put into long-term bonds, right? They didn't have enough liquid cash in a situation. And they should have done that. The government should have had regulation surrounding this. Now, without even blinking, the very same people who were melting down over your $600 unemployment check are now demanding that we bail them out. And this wasn't just Republicans that voted for this, mind you. I believe it was like more than 15, maybe 17 Democrats that also voted for this deregulation. Remember that. It wasn't just the Republicans. Democrats were on board with it too, because they are the same kind of vicious cocksucking demons that the Republicans are too. Okay? They are blood-sucking psychopaths, all working at the behest of capital. You understand? They are not on your side. They are not on the side of the fucking working class. And yes, they are the same
Somebody on Twitter
fuckers
just
who did complain about student loan debt relief. What is this? Somebody on Twitter just asked Bing's AI what this SVB collapse in monkey banana terms.
asked Bing's AI to explain the Silicon Valley Bank collapse in monkey banana terms, and I'm going to read that response to you. Here's the response. Here I go. Me try to explain. Silicon Valley Bank like big tree with many bananas.
This is the link you wanted me to watch? Like, you were like, this is the link you need to watch? Respect to you, just chatting streamer of the year, but I prefer XQC explanation. Okay, stop. Let's do the serious, let's do the meat first, and then we'll get to the funny haha moments. Anyway, this means they always must have enough high quality liquid assets to meet deposit outflows in a stress scenario. This effectively means that banks around the world are forced to keep around 10 to 15% of the assets side of their balance sheet invested in high quality liquid assets. And guess what qualifies for a high quality liquid asset? Reserves at the Fed, and you guessed it, bonds. Effectively, banks were asked to own large amount of liquid assets and were told bonds were the only game in town due to regulation. Oh my God, they're saying this is like the regulation caused this problem. Who sent this link to me? Yeah, they overregulated the banks. The banks should have actually... Okay. Effectively, banks were asked to own a large amount of liquid assets and were told bonds were the only game in town to do regulation. What bonds? Mostly government bonds. But be aware, also corporate bonds and mortgage-backed securities can qualify. When regulators force you to own a ton of bonds, they also force you to swallow a lot of P&L volatility, and banks don't like that. That's why regulators allow bank treasuries to park bonds in two accounting-friendly books, available for sale and held to maturity. In both cases, if treasuries or corporate MBS bonds lose value, like at no point in this circumstance, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this because I don't understand the financial world, but like at no point in this circumstance are we even fucking like looking at the situation and going, how about not using the money? How about not putting all of the money back in? Like, I thought, at a certain point, banks are supposed to hold on to, like, big pockets of cash in their saves. Like, I don't know. That's a thing. But, hey, that's money wasted, right? Like, well, when you put your money into one bank and you are in a checkings account, not even in a savings account, you're wasting your money. The bank is not wasting your money. The bank is using your money to make more money for itself. But I do feel like maybe, I'm just saying, maybe like the bank shouldn't use some of the money. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But permanent growth dictates that the bank actually use all the money. You have to, or as much as you can do, as much as you can get away with using, as much as the regulatory agencies allow you to get away with. When you put money in the bank, they loan out 10x the amount. Your deposit counts as 10% in the reserves that they hold. Yes. Huh. I think you only have to have 10% of every loan the bank makes in savings. That's not how it works because depositors want interest paid in the money they park in a bank. So regulators have to require the banks to hold liquidity. Otherwise, the banks will use all the money. Yeah. I think they should not use all the money. They should have even more of the money parked inside of the bank to give back whenever people need it. Because ultimately, it is your money. Anyway. In both cases, if treasuries and corporate MBS bonds lose value, the bank's P&L does not record the loss immediately. The unrealized gains and losses securities held in AFS hits the capital position of the bank, not its P&L. But the true banger, debt and equity securities not classified as either held to maturity securities or trading securities are classified as available for sale securities, reported at fair value with unrealized gains and losses excluded from earnings and reported in a separate component of the shareholders' equity. The true banger is that bonds booked in held to maturity books are reported at amortized costs, or in other words, the unrealized losses basically do not show up in the bank's financial statements. This creates an incentive scheme to park as many bonds in these accounting category as you can, as you earn coupons over time and don't face P&L volatility. The flip side is when you need liquidity, banks can only sell a small portion of the HTM bonds before being tainted as non-compliant from regulators. The large extent of HTM hidden losses is worrying some. To me, there is a more important story going on. Liquidity and funding are becoming tougher for small banks. QT is reducing the balance sheet of the Fed. On the asset side, QT shrinks the amount of bonds the Fed owns. On the liability side, it could be RRP or TGA or reserves. I don't fucking... Okay, now it's confusing me. Banks kind of sound like legalized loan sharks that people trust to hold their money. Is that about right? Yeah, I mean, it is. A lot of what you consider to be legal and good and illegal and bad is just about what the government or regulatory agencies have decided is legal and good. Okay? They like to pretend so hard this shit is not fraudulent and scientific when it's just not. Yeah, I mean, that is another component of this. Like, a lot of the this is like a self-sustaining industry. You know what I mean? It's complicated because it creates more mediators, it creates more middle people, it creates more middle managers. It creates a process where you can continue cycling the money, and every time you cycle upwards, there are more people that can create additional profits, generate additional profits for themselves. Ultimately, I don't think that commercial retail banks should hold on to your money and then use that money and invest that money. But unfortunately, we do not live in that world. Shouts out to Bill Clinton. Shouts out to everyone else, really, but certainly Bill Clinton as well. That allowed that to happen. It didn't used to. There was a point where your retail bank was not allowed to fucking invest your money, but that point does not exist anymore. We completely have normalized that. We feel like it's a thing that can happen, and it happens every day. Ultimately, though, what would be better is if they had... Please read. This might be an unpopular opinion in this community, but I think most American economists are right in this scenario. I think the Fed should step in and provide relief to the banks to help the stockholders. I mean, that's not an unpopular perspective in this community because, I also believe that banks, not the stockholders, but the banks should help the deposit people who fucking deposited their money. I said that already. That is the entire point of the FDIC. It has to happen. Otherwise, you'll have, if people lose confidence in the banking system, then there will be more bank runs. And we know what happens when there are more bank runs. What is this?
Stop! Okay. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. The year is 2019, and I live like a king.
Hey, SVB. Looking good, Randall.
Investors love me. Conditions.
Today's video.
Patrick Boyle describing what happened to Silicon Valley Bank. Dude, this is insane. This dude's video is more blown out than my shit, dude.
Perfect. Hey, I just got $50 million in funding. Could I deposit in your bank? And companies are getting more funding than ever.
What's your startup do?
It's an app where you rate how hot people's daughters are without them asking. I went to Berkeley.
Put it in.
Oh, we're making some cash. Hey, let's put $80 million in mortgage-backed securities.
Oh, that sounds a little 2008, don't you think?
Nah, interest rates are down. We'll get a return of 1.5%. I like our odds.
I really don't.
Thank you. Yep, life was pretty great as the 20th largest bank in the U.S., and nothing was going to ruin that. Surprise! It's 2022, and you would not believe the price of eggs out there. 1 second. Okay, people did not like daughter rank. Could we have some money, please?
Hey, let's sell some securities.
Hey, what are you doing?
Sir, almost none of our deposits are insured.
If I tell you, you can't freak out.
Okay.
We are having a tiny liquidity crisis.
A what?
So we're just going to do a little bit of capital raising.
A liquidity crisis?
No, a crisis. No, it's not bad.
My stock is down today. Why could that be?
That money was for payroll, mother.
Okay, I won't raise any capital. Because we're exploring a sale.
And I mean, that never came. It just did not happen.
Ah, come on.
the Jim Cramer tweet at the end is funny. Okay, listen. I mean, give all depositors their money back except the douchebags on the All In podcast and Peter Thiel. They deserve the L's. I mean, didn't Peter Thiel literally pull out before this happened? I mean, he was committed to a bank run. He was the one who kind of like started this entire fucking saga, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, VC's doing a bank run, then crying and pleading to be bailed out, then encouraging their hundreds of thousands of followers to panic, then jerking each other off for stopping a bank crisis is one of the most embarrassing displays I've ever seen. Yeah, I know I missed a lot of this stuff on Twitter because I was doing other shit this weekend. This is the one weekend where I was not around. Because I was doing, the streamer awards and shit like that, so I didn't pay too close attention to this. Like on Friday, I kind of looked into it a little bit. I read up on it a little bit, but like it's very obvious that it's always the same fucking issues. Yeah. This is why there were no bank failures in the 1920s era of Jim Crow. Yeah. People that are blaming like woke diverse boards or whatever the fuck is really stupid. Fuck those people. Obviously, they're insane. You know what I mean? They're out of their fucking minds. It is just deregulation, and that's just the way to like. It's just exactly. Wall Street Journal is one of those people, but before we get to Wall Street Journal running defense for deregulation while simultaneously saying it's the homosexual Marxists that are causing this to happen. Let's further venture into what happened.
Latest
here.
reporting is headline: How Silicon Valley Turned on Silicon Valley Bank. So good to have both of you on.
Wait, is this the gay one? Please tell me, is this the article? Is that the article that Wall Street Journal wrote and the CNN had the? Stop. No shot.
Reading your notes and what you wrote about this, you have been very strong about this, and tough on what you are calling this a bailout.
Oh, no, this is a different
you
one.
Said there's no other way of putting it. This is a bailout, no matter what terminology you want to use.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that?
Well, I mean, clearly there are some that are getting bailed out, right? The depositors of these particular banks are, many of which are companies, right? They need to make payroll. Their money was trapped in these institutions. And so the government took extraordinary actions to allow them to access that money, right? Even as those banks were going through receivership and had failed. So whether again the taxpayer money was used to implement those plans, the government said no. But clearly there was a rescue of a particular group of people and businesses.
So, Rahul, one of the things that
Everybody fucking talks shit about bailouts when it's bankers, but no one cares because at the top of the hour, gifters are bailing out those who do not have the finances to avoid the 3-minute ad break. Oh, all of a sudden, when the top of the hour comes along, you're like, oh, please bail me out. You know what I mean? It's fucked up. Bailouts for everybody. The Raging Hoppa bailing out 10 people from seeing the top of the hour ad break. Glizzy Gobbler with the 5. Bill Vog with the 5. Blasted Say with the 5. An anonymous user with a 10. God damn, that's a good segue. You already know what it is. But the top of the hour ad break is here. MP Sharky with another 5. 813 Sino Bike Girl with another 10. God damn it. Bailing out all you motherfuckers. If you, of course, are not lucky enough to be bailed out by a gifted subscriber, all you need to do is subscribe on your own for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Woo! Woo! Bussy Smollett, thank you for the 5. Get the subs. Warson 20 with a 5. Robe on that with another 5. Bailouts for everybody. Big Rat Wizard, thank you for the 10.
That MJ noted that's really important is what the government's doing now, and they're setting up this emergency lending facility. So part of the reason that SVB got into a lot of trouble is that they had to sell these long-term treasuries at a loss. Then they went out to try to capital raise
WR,
last
thank you for the 20.
Wednesday. Spooked. Try to get $2 billion, and they saw, and depositors, and investors saw the loss.
Georgie 3375, thank you for the 5.
You're selling these at a loss because interest rates have gone up. Your securities aren't as attractive anymore. Yeah. What the government's doing now would prevent against someone else having to do a capital raise like that, right?
Right. That's exactly it. Banking is all about confidence, right? Confidence in the system. Confidence that if you or I or anyone here at this table puts their money into a bank, if we need it tomorrow, that money will be there. What happened here with SVB was a lack of confidence. And so you started to see all of these depositors rush to get all of their money out. And that's what led to this
panic. Thank you, Sakura Gore, for the 10.
What regulators are trying to do here is to prevent that from happening again, right? Sort of insulate the risk here, insulate the contagion so that this doesn't spread beyond an SVB story. And that's why you saw officials.
In layman's terms, this is an old-fashioned, is it an old-fashioned run on the bank is what
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, I spoke to a founder who had a lot of her money in this bank last night, and she said that, the tech community is very small. The VC founder community is very small. She said early last week, text messages were starting to go around. It became chatter. And as the days went on, screenshots were going around in terms of, hey, my investor said, pull your money. And so it really did lead to a high-tech problem in terms of tech, but really leading to an old-fashioned bank run.
Yeah, I think Patrick McHenry from North Carolina said it was a Twitter-fueled bank run because these are very online people who were all talking about those messages. This $250 cap, they're basically waiving it with the steps that we're seeing.
Motherfuckers be like, get a real job and work in VC. Yeah, I know. It's awesome. Yeah, get a real job, dude. In venture capital. What do you mean? Get a real job. Those are the real job producers. Trinrec, thank you for the 5. Get the subs. Your rant earlier. What? Loans getting pardoned by the federal government is not increasing your taxes, but these fucking monsters that are at these fucking multi-billion-dollar news media corporations did not even stutter. They lied to you every fucking day. They did that on NPR. They did that on fucking Fox News. They did that on CNN. And they kept talking about how, wait a minute, who's gonna pay for these fucking student loans to be relieved? Fuck you. Fuck you and suck my fucking cock. Oh, it's not a bailout. We must talk about the semantics of this situation when it's the banks that are getting bailed out or not getting bailed out, when it's the depositors that are getting bailed out. It's fucking bullshit. I should react to this guy sometimes. Yeah, I think he does have he has some good takes on it. Thoughts on bailing out the moms you're fucking? Absolutely not. The way Congress was informed was shady as fuck.
And I just wanted to bring you up to speed on everything that's happened tonight because you're probably seeing a lot of headlines right now. Earlier tonight, there was an emergency Zoom call with several hundred members of Congress. It was convened by the Treasury Department, and we were given about 15 minutes notice. It was literally on regular Zoom. I was sent
Bro, what is this fuckboy TikTok congressperson, dude? What the hell's happening right now? I feel like we've lost control.
link. I clicked the link, and most of Congress was there. That's not normal, but neither is the situation. The purpose of the meeting was to announce extraordinary steps that will now be taken to secure our financial system. You're going to hear from the president today, along with leaders of both parties, but here's what's happening. 3 days ago, we had the second largest bank failure in American history. It happened because there was a bank in California called Silicon Valley Bank. It lost a lot of money, causing a lot of its customers to get scared and try to withdraw their money, and it caused a run on the bank. So the federal government, through the FDIC, stepped in and closed the bank. Here's the problem. Typically, your deposits in a bank are only protected up to $250,000. But the vast majority of customers at this bank had deposits more than that because this bank specialized in startups and small businesses. And the uncertainty about what would happen to customers with more than $250,000 in deposits started to spread to other banks. A New York bank failed last night. Others have started flashing red. Basically, people with money at smaller banks were getting scared and transferring their money into bigger banks, and we were in the early stages of a domino effect. Which brings us back to the emergency Zoom call. All the depositors at the Silicon Valley Bank will be made whole. Same with the bank in New York. We're going to pay for that with the fund that banks already pay into, not with taxpayer money. And the people being protected are just the depositors. These are mainly business.
It's just funny because, like, yeah, banks pay into that. How do they generate that cash flow? How do they generate that revenue? Well, they generated that revenue with your money to begin with. There's no part of this where, like, you are not actually getting wages, okay, and then taking those wages and putting in a bank because you have to, because there's no other way. Otherwise, you're going to stuff it under a fucking pillow. You know what I mean? And then having those banks take those wages and then getting 10x loans off of those fucking wages and playing around with your money, only to then take some of that money that the government's like, okay, dude, you're playing around with too much money. Like, we need some kind of assurance. We need some kind of insurance, right? And then they'll take that money and put it into the fucking insurance fund, which is what is going to be paying for the depositors in this circumstance. Now, if this happened at a much larger scale, though, we would be fucked.
Businesses that otherwise would have to close and lay off thousands of people because they chose the wrong bank. We're not protecting the management or the people who own stock in the bank. Right now, every step being taken has one purpose: to make sure this domino effect ends now. We caught it early enough so that taxpayers won't have to pay. We can pass the bill on to the banks. As long as this panic stops here. There's going to be a huge political debate now about bank regulation and how much risk.
Yeah, which is insane because Republicans have already hit the line of like, oh no, this is not deregulation, it's homosexuality. Sick. No, fuck it, YOLO. You know what I mean? Fuck it. Bedlam. Cause bedlam, dude. I think that's what we need to keep doing. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana. Social Security is the Silicon Valley Bank of retirement systems. Oh my God. When I see stuff like this, I want to say things that are so much in violation of the terms of service that it is in violation of the terms of service that was set up by the government, because it would be illegal for me to say the things I want to say right now. It wouldn't just get me banned off of Twitch as a platform. It would get me banned off of public by, the real cancel culture where I go to jail, okay? Holy fuck! Ah! Monstrous shit. Monster. This person is saying things that are like so objectively violent when they say things like this. Specifically things like this. That your grandparents are going to get fucked over. You're going to get fucking fucked over. Holy shit. I'm thinking it. You can't stop me from thinking thoughts. I'll tell you that much.
Social Security is a Silicon Valley bank of retirement systems. It is going broke. It's just a question of whether we let it bleed to death or whether we do something right now. We need a credible plan. If a politician tells you that he doesn't want to fix social, that there's no problem, they're either too old or too rich to care. Your benefits are going to be cut by 25% if we do nothing when it goes broke in 9 years. Social Security is
Oh my God. Okay, I'm moving back to this.
We're willing to let them take going forward. Good. Clearly, we have to make some changes. But today is
Yeah, good luck. yeah. First of all, it's not going to go insolvent. That's bullshit. Okay, but again, what do you think should happen in this situation? Great question. I don't know. Maybe raise the fucking minimum price that you need to, or maximum price that you pay into Social Security. That's one good way to start this process. Because currently it maxes out at like literally just it has a cap that is, what is it, like 175 grand or something? 150 grand? No, it's not 400K. It's even lower than that. Yeah. It's fucking ass cheeks. And I say this as someone who is above that. You know what I mean? Like, raise my fucking taxes! Fuck! How insane is that, dude? That's it. Someone making $10 gorillion a year, someone making $10 million a year, and someone making $127,000 a year is like literally paying the same into Social Security. Are you fucking joking? Jamel Bowie debunked it.
So I saw this tweet last night. Y'all remember in high school when they broke the news to us that we would probably be the first generation that probably wouldn't receive Social Security? LOL. Has a lot of likes, a lot of views, a lot of retweets, a lot of people agreeing with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's bullshit too, by the way, because people are still funding it, but it doesn't matter. That part is very frustrating too. Okay, like it's not going insolvent. It's like what right wingers say, and it's not true, but it doesn't matter. If there is a crisis within funding Social Security, then that's because there is a lack of interest in increasing the max cap of who pays into Social Security. Those companies or airliners, for example, can engage in what didn't used to be legal like it is now. Shouts out to Ronald Reagan for that. Engage in risky stock buybacks instead of dumping some of their or reinvesting some of the additional cash they have back into, I don't know, safety measures, hiring more people, which also beefs up safety and security, any of that kind of thing. Why? Because ultimately, if they get into a tricky situation where they have to, use all of the remaining money that they have, one, they've still protected the stock, the shareholders, the people that they have a fiduciary responsibility towards, the people that really matter in this circumstance, right? And the government will protect them.
For SVB, it didn't. Obviously, there was no winning bid for that auction. I think it's possible that we could see other assets that get sold in the coming days. We saw overnight, or rather this morning, HSBC step in and buy the UK arm of Silicon Valley Bank. So there are interesting businesses in both of these banks that could warrant some interest. It could be some more deals that we see.
Yeah, I think they said that J.P. Morgan and PNC among the suitors, so SVB holding company, which would exclude the SVB bank part of it. But I think you raised a very good question about the question about the Feds, whether the Feds will listen to what has been said to stop raising rates because this contributed to it. Everyday folks are concerned about this. This isn't just tech people. This isn't just people who have private equity. This affects all aspects of the economy. So if people are at home, Rahel, and they're sitting there wondering, as they have been all weekend, am I affected by this? What do you say to them?
Look, it's a great question. I mean, I think we are all so connected in terms of banking. I think the big difference here is that this was largely a very sort of insulated bank, right? A big bank nonetheless, but sort of focusing on a specific sector of the economy. A very important Republic. Yeah, a very important part of the economy, but a secular sort of insulated part of the economy. I think the reason why the Fed stepped up as quickly as they did is to prevent the risk to people like everyone watching at home, right? To protect other regional banks so that we have confidence in the banking system, and that's why we saw the type of rapid response that we did.
I don't know, Justin. I mean, you point First Republic was down like 30%. That we have images of these long lines of people going to First Republic over the weekend trying to take money out. They're standing, that but Signature's not. And these are not just banks that cater to Silicon Valley. You wrote in your piece about how this exposes some of the vulnerabilities that we still have.
The banking system. Sure. Well, as you said earlier, I mean, this is all based on confidence, right? And the whole financial system, any financial institution is dependent on the ongoing confidence. So once that's lost, or once it becomes lost,
Hasan bought his house 2 months after mine. We'll never see interest rates like that again. Hell yeah, baby. That's called insider trading. Or I control the government. Have you thought about that? You know, for a dumb guy who doesn't really understand financial markets, my lack of interest in participating in the stock market, especially right now, and also purchasing a home right before this shit fucking blows up, pretty good timing, I'd say. Hey, I ain't no big city lawyer, and I'm certainly not someone who understands the financial system, but ultimately did a pretty good job on that, I think. You got seriously lucky. What the fuck do you mean I got seriously lucky? I talked about all of this already. Come on, man. Come on. What do you mean? What do you, that's not luck. It would be luck if I hadn't talked about interest rates inevitably going up over and over again as I was like literally purchasing the house. I did. I literally talked about it. Talked about it all the time. Now, I bought at the highest pricing, technically, right? So there is that. But luckily, the house I bought was legitimately much cheaper for square footage wise than all of the other houses. And it was still incredibly expensive. Do not misunderstand me, of course, because it's in Los Angeles. But the reality is, when you say you bought at the highest point, that implies that there is going to be a lower point. That implies that there's going to be a lower point in the housing market when, like, you basically don't understand how, like, the American government has created a system specifically for the housing market prices to always go up. You understand? Like, absent of, especially because I live in a big city, absent of any other, full-blown financial meltdown, like fucking game-changing, world-ending financial meltdown, like 2008 times 2, okay? The federal government's entire sole reason for existing, and perhaps the most, like, socialized aspect of the gains, revolve around property being like an investment, property being the main wealth generation mechanism for every American. I think that this is bullshit. I think it's at the heart of the issue, right? I think housing is supposed to be personal property and not necessarily capital that you can dump a lot of fucking funds into and sit back and expect it to appreciate. But the federal government does everything it can, and local and state governments do everything they can to ensure that housing prices always go up, which is ironic because, you know, that is the reason why there are so many homeless people. That is the reason why there's so much issue. There's so many issues with the way that people's quality of life has gone down. That's it. These chatters from Iowa don't realize that people want to live in LA and $1 million buys a regular house, not a McMansion where they live. No. I mean, this is like in every respect a Los Angeles McMansion. Like, let's be real. Anyway, I'm a YouTube frog. One of my first messages, thanks for getting me out of the right-wing rabbit hole. Was kind of lost, but you definitely helped. Hell yeah. Yeah, I think that commodification of shelter is devastating. That is one thing that Kropotkin was absolutely on the money on. Anyway.
It can lead to what we saw this past week, right? And that can flare up elsewhere very quickly, which again is why you saw the government go beyond just looking at these two institutions over the weekend, but saying, well, how do we avoid seeing other lenders, particularly those that again, the regulations have changed over the past decade with respect to smaller and medium-sized banks. How can we protect and insulate those, not only those banks, but more importantly,
Is it
their
just
customers?
because they're smaller, medium-sized banks, or is it because they're holders of a lot of mortgages, for example?
I mean, all of the above, right?
Yeah.
You know, so every bank's balance sheet is going to look a little bit differently, right? I mean, everyone has had to deal with the impact of rising interest rates. Some did so, obviously, a lot more prudently than others, right? And so there will be others that will resemble in some ways the way Silicon Valley Bank looked, right? You know, and we see some of the other names get very quickly attached to what happened to them last week. But again, we'll
Two
have
of
to
the
see. It's all
largest
based
bank
on confidence.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we get closer to the markets and the day the banks start opening up.
And
to
some of
see
them
exactly
had
what
actually
happens.
opened up.
Take a look at what CoffeeZilla had to say about it.
Failures in history happened this week. But before we talk about why, I have a question. Why is Jim Cramer so good at being so bad at his job? Just months before they both collapsed, he said this.
These are never, ever talked about. Why?